Foley, and I'm driving home from work today. And I was thinking, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to ramble on about? What am I going to bore you to death with? And I thought to myself, what's dear to me? What's important to me? My animals, my dogs. I've always been a huge animal lover, and there's lots of reasons why, I guess. When I was a child, we had a dog or two. And come on, bro. The drivers. No wonder why there's so many car accidents. We had some dogs as a kid, and it's like having a brother or a sister. It's like another family member. And I've always had that affection, that caring for my dogs. And whether anyone listens to this or not, I think about the first dog that I can recall. His name was Treacherous. Back in the day, in my elementary school days in New York, treacherous was a word that was used by everybody in the school. Yo, man, that is Tretch. Yo, that is treacherous. And it was like, like when people say it's, oh, that's bad. Oh, that's bad, meaning it in a good way. Right. So anyway, I ended up naming my dog Treacherous, Tretch for short. And white dog mix, got him at the pound. Don't really remember that process, but in high school we had Treacherous, and I don't know when I got Treacherous. I mean, probably somewhere at fifth, sixth grade. But Treacherous lasted, a long time. He was a great dog. He was a sweet dog. Once in a while, he'd get out of the yard. But Tretch was that loyal companion. And again, I just laugh at kind of I'm a kid, and the word treacherous is the word. It's the hype word in school. So I named him Tretch, and he was a great dog and wonderful dog. And come upstairs and stay in the room, and I'd take him for a walk, and I'd run around the yard with him, and just kind of acted like a kid. And I think that's why God put animals on this planet. Well, that's why they put dogs, man's best friend. It really is. So Treacherous was I go back. Before Treacherous, there was Benji. I forgot Benji. How could I forget Benji? Benji was the dog that I had before that. Benji was like, I don't know, second, third grade. And Benji was a terrier, like a kind of a blondish terrier. I don't know how big he would have been. He wasn't too big, probably like 30 pounds or so. Just a good dog, very, very defensive. And there was another dog on the block that he would get into a fight with, and he'd get out of my yard and jump. And back then, I didn't realize like how important it was to keep your dog safe. But he would get out and he would run down the street, and that other dog would get out, and they would literally meet in the street, like two rival gangs, and they duke it out and fight. But I guess those were the good days where there was really no damage. There was no dogs bleeding. They were fighting, but they weren't really accomplishing anything. And I didn't like that neighbor, and that neighbor didn't like me. And, it was just a weird thing. Like our two dogs would fight. But again, never damage, never had to go to the vet, never blood. I don't know. It's just weird. Like two hamsters fighting. Do hamsters hurt each other? I don't know. But anyway, Benji was my first dog. And Benji was how I met my adopted dad. So Benji got out of the yard once, and I'm going down the street asking people, hey, did you see my dog? His name's Benji. If you see him, could you let me know? I'll come back. I'm just going to keep circling the yard, the street, the neighborhood until I find him. And my neighbor, who ultimately became my adopted dad, he was raking some leaves, and I was like, after I found my dog, you need some help raking them leaves? He's like, no, I'm good. I was like, I cut lawns, I shovel snow, I do all those things. And ultimately he said, well, when it snows, I don't like to do, I'm not a big snow person. So if you come back, you doing any other neighbors? I go, yeah, I'm doing the whole block, most of the block. Would give me $2, $5, whatever it was. Anyway, that's a side story how I met my adopted dad. He was a neighbor. Well, after time went by, my mom wasn't the best person, hence I was adopted. But the dog Benji protected me. Mom was a violent person. Mom would hit you with stick, whip, spoon, whatever the object was closer to her, she would hit me. And one day the dog jumped up on my bed and growled at her. And she had she was trying to hit me with a spoon or something. And the dog jumped up and literally grabbed the spoon out of my mom's hand. And she said, that's it, I'm going to kill your dog. And that was Benji. And that's how I lost Benji. And it's not a way for any young child to to have a best friend, a brother, right? Whatever it is that you consider your dog when you're a small child. But she called animal services and said that the dog attacked her and she had him put to sleep. One of the many stories of my mom. Not a good person. Anyway, I cried, and like what every kid does is he cries and he mourns the animal. My adopted dad, the first dog that I had was a dog named Blood. That was the dog that my adopted family had. It was a Doberman Pinscher, but with the floppy ears. I gotta get some gas. With the floppy ears, the Doberman didn't have the ears cut because my adopted dad didn't want to do that to the dog. So anyway, the dog was Blood, and I know it's out of a book. He named her Blood, big Doberman Pinscher, 80, 90-pound dog, maybe 70. I was a little kid, so seemed like a big dog. Blood was super trained. Sit, lay down, stay, fetch, you name it, Blood would do it. Blood was super trained and a great dog, but didn't always consider him my dog. That was, my dad's dog. It wasn't my dog. But then I got Treacherous. And I started this story off with Treacherous was named after what was cool in, elementary, 5th, 6th grade. Treacherous was the word. And I guess the guy's comparing trucks. And Treacherous was just a cool dog. He was like I want to say like a white retriever / lab, something mixed. I guess he was wanting to race me. I don't know. If I was in a Viper or a Corvette or a Lamborghini, I'd just go to the track and race. But I guess he wanted to race trucks. Anyway, so Treacherous was just this mixed dog, all white, had a couple of brown spots on him. Big goofy dog, sweetheart, just a sweetheart of a dog, and had him through high school, and just a wonderful dog. I just remember big fluff ball. In college, or towards the end of high school, going into college, I went down to the pound and I adopted a dog and I named him Sarge. Sarge was the first, he was a guy's dog. Whether it was running or jumping or playing or fetching, and Sarge was tough. If another dog came in the property, Sarge would let him know, hey, Sarge was the guardian of Roger P. Foley. He was my protector. If I went anywhere with him, he would protect me. He would let people know, hey, you mess with Dad, you're messing with me. I ended up taking Sarge to college with me. Sarge became the fraternity mascot. Sarge went with me to law school. Sarge was around a long time. My dogs are, because I don't give up on them. If I adopt a dog, it's till death. I'm going to do everything I can to keep that dog going. If he needs medical care, he gets medical care. He's going to get the best food I can get. He's going to be loved, and he or she is going to know that they're loved, you know? So Sarge was that first, like, wow, he was like my super dog. I remember the guys in the fraternity sometimes would like hit me or punch me on the arm, and so growling, hey, you better stop. And I was like, hey man, let's not push it. I don't want my dog to attack you. Sarge, as he was getting older, needed a friend. And well, when I was dating a girl a long time ago, we started to live together, and her name was Sheila, and she wanted a dog, and my aunt breeds Pomeranians. So, and she shows them like professionally. So I ended up getting Chelsea, which was the runt of the litter. Now Chelsea was really Sheila's dog, and I wanted to get her, you know, a dog that she would love. It's a little frou-frou dog, you could hold them, but I really did love Chelsea. You know, she was just a sweetheart of a dog. You know, we got her neutered right away, and she played with Sarge and what have you. But again, Chelsea was really Sheila's dog. So anyway, I take Sarge. Sarge stays at home at first when I'm playing football and what have you. But when I go back to UAB, I ended up bringing Sarge with me. And he was just that guy, like just, oh, what a great dog. Just can't even, you know, it's weird. I talk about my dogs like they're my best friends because they are my best friends. Oh goodness, I hope they're okay. So took Sarge, he became the mascot of the house. Everybody loved Sarge. The girls loved him. We'd have dance parties at the house in the basement. Sarge was always there. He never bothered you. Like, he could walk in the house, out the house. People are drinking beer. He's just sitting there. He just liked to be around people, and he would never leave. Even if the door was open, he wouldn't run away. You didn't have to worry about that with Sarge. Just wanted to, he was everybody's friend. And I came to, when did I get Adrian? I got Adrian in Alabama. Decided that Adrian, that Sarge needed a pet, a friend. He was getting older. And as soon as I got Adrian, boy, Sarge pepped right back up. And I really thought he was getting close to his end, but he ended up living, I don't even know, another 8 years. Brought them both to law school, rented a house with a bunch of people, with a bunch of strangers, kind of like, was it MTV's thing? Except they were all law students. So he rented a big house in Miami, and I was in charge of it. I was scared people were going to bail, so I kept committing to a bunch of people, ended up committing to 6 other law students. Anyway, brought Sarge and Adrian, had a big room, had like 1.5 acres, 2 acres, and Sarge lived in my room and put a doggy door in, and him and Adrian would go out in the backyard and tan, and then come into the house and sleep in my room during the day when I was at law school. And you know, as busy as law school was, I always made time. I always made time for the dogs. I love Sarge. I love Adrian. Adrian was like, Adrian was this tough little like mixed like pit bull lab. And she was a tough dog. I remember one day at the fraternity house, we're at a corner and it's like an intersection sort of, and not a lot of traffic, but residential traffic. And there was a dog, and what was he? Those brown and black dogs, not, oh, I can't think of it. But anyway, big dog, like 100 and something pounds. And the dog's in the car and it yells out, and I don't realize that Adrian sees it. And the way it comes is like this, like this, like this. Adrian sees the dog bark, runs as the car's going, runs and blocks the path of the thing. The dog's got its neck out the door, and Adrian jumps up and latches onto the dog's neck, and I almost had a heart attack. One, that my dog almost got hit by the car. Two, that she didn't listen to me because I thought that they were so well trained because I trained them. And then they grabbed onto that dog, and I stopped and she stopped. And the guy went, and thank God there was no injuries to either dog. And that person just totally went through a red light. Wow. It's like, what's your rush, folks? What's your rush? Where are you rushing to? Be home safe. That's what your family cares about. Anyway, so ended up, Adrian was in the frat house too for a while. My girlfriend's house that I dated stayed there for a little bit, and ended up at UM. So, and Sergeant Adrian are awesome. And right towards the end of law school, I was in a predicament where I didn't have a place to stay any longer. I was staying at a place, and I decided to, answer an ad, and I kind of acted like as a caretaker, taking this old lady grocery shopping and cutting the lawn and doing the pool, and I could stay at her house. But she was old and a little senile, and she decided to let the dogs out, and I really didn't have a place. And I asked someone who I thought was a friend to watch the dogs. I'm going to stop and get gas. To watch the dogs for a short period while I was taking the bar exam, so I could, get a place, get a job, and, be able to take care of them. Well, that person let me down. Dogs got out. And as I'm studying for the bar exam, I end up stopping studying for the bar exam because I got to find my dogs. And like I said, they're the most important thing to me. I'm going up and down the streets in Hialeah because that's where the dogs were. And I couldn't find them. Made posters, did all kinds of things. And finally found Adrian first. Couldn't find Sarge. Of course, I was teary-eyed and upset. I gotta wait to get gas. I don't know where I'm gonna park. There's no spots. Okay, I'll just wait in line here. So I found Adrian, got Adrian to a safe place, found Sarge in a terrible condition. I don't know how long it had gone by, a week and a half, but he looked anorexic. All of a sudden, he was an old dog, and he didn't have any, it was just toward the end of his life, and I didn't have a place to live. It was horrible. I was literally sleeping on a friend's couch, and that place didn't allow dogs, and I ended up renting. It's a place that cares for dogs out in Homestead, and didn't have a lot of money. I think it was like $300 a month. I was broke as can be. I was studying for the bar. I had a little bit of loan money. I call it loan money, and that's what paid for Sarge to be at this. It's like a doggy daycare. The owner was real nice, kind of helped me out a little bit with the price, and I supplied food, and then they were there. But went back to studying for the bar, and it was very tragic. I got a phone call early in the morning, and I cried. I mean, I just cried. I was just my dogs were everything, and Sarge had passed away. The woman told me that she had her in, Sarge was in her office with her. She was doing, work and payroll for the workers, and, fell asleep. And I don't know, she went to about 11 o'clock at night. She went to get him to walk back to the room, calling it a night, and he didn't get up, and he had passed sleeping. The only comfort there was that he passed in his sleep. The discomfort was that I wasn't there, I wasn't able to provide. I didn't have a place, and he wasn't with me. And I cried, and I was overwhelmed, and So, like any animal lover, I cried and pouted, but I still studied, but not to the level that I would normally do. So for those that don't know, I ended up taking the bar exam 2 different times, because I took the first part, the multi-state, on one day, and then the bar, I didn't even know that that was an option, but the bar said, hey, we understand your situation. I didn't tell them. I said it was a family member. That was my family. And I ended up taking the other portion almost a year later, the essay portion. Ended up getting Sarge cremated, and when I bought my first house in Hollywood, I think that was about 2006, I sprinkled his ashes throughout the yard, because I wanted to give him a home. Still devastated by that, not to be there. Anyway, still had Adrian. Adrian was a great dog. Like I said, like a lab pit mix. I don't, depending on who asked, it was a pit, a lab, somewhere in between. She became daddy's girl. I spent a lot of time with her. I lived as the bar, right after Sarge passed, I ended up getting enough money together, and I got an apartment in Aventura, Florida. And it allowed pets. It was a 1-bedroom apartment in Aventura. Really nice little area. And I would leave the thing open, the door a little bit, turn the AC down or up, and Adrian at least would be able to go out if I wasn't able to be there. So, but I would take her, because the place was called Village by the Bay, anyone knows, in Aventura. So I would take Adrian for walks several times a day. I knew all the neighbors. And I would just walk her, I don't know, 5 times a day while I'm studying for the bar. Every time she needed a break, I stopped studying and did what I had to do. But when I couldn't be there, or when I first got my job at the courthouse in Miami, she would stay there, and I'd just leave the door open, almost like a doggy door, and she'd go out on the patio, and unfortunately she'd mess, and I'd have to come home and clean that up and bleach it and kind of make it clean again. Sometimes a day or two would go by, and I'd have to, I'd always clean up the poop, but if I couldn't be there, I didn't have enough money to hire a dog sitter. When you first become an attorney, or you're waiting for the bar exam results, you don't have any money. I thought my old truck got some gas. I got this new truck, and right now, I'm at the most expensive place, Sunoco in Jupiter, I think. It's like $4 and something cents a gallon. I thought gas had gone down. $130 for gas. My goodness. Anyway, so Adrian was, man, she was awesome. She, obviously I had lost Sarge, and I gave everything to Adrian. She was just a sweet dog, loving dog. I wouldn't say like protective. Like, she wasn't aggressive with anybody. She might be aggressive with another dog, maybe, but she did start to bully Sarge towards the end. But I loved her. She's a great dog. And yeah, so that was Sarge and Adrian. Then I had the house in Hollywood. Adrian and I were there, and All of a sudden one day I wake up and there's a dog like on the other side, on the inside of my fence. And I'm like, the heck? And the dog's all beat up. It looked like he got into a dog fight or something. I didn't know. It was like a boxer Shar-Pei mix. And that was Ike. Ike was, let's not do that. It's just amazing. Like, so many accidents could be avoided if people just go, hey, I made a mistake and I should just make the left here, not cross 3 lanes of traffic into a car that's doing 60. Anyway, so dog shows up in my yard, and Shar-Pei's got a cut tail, Shar-Pei boxer mix. I take him to the hospital. I'm barely an attorney, don't really have any money. And I end up taking the vet. I don't know how much it cost me, like $800, $1,000, and they fix them up and what have you. And I bring them home and I go, well, I guess you're gonna be mine, buddy. I just spent like $800 or $1,000 on you. And the way I grew up on welfare, that's a heck of a lot of money. So I hang on guys, I gotta find my wife here. I didn't know if the lady was gonna jump in front of me. Apparently she was going to. Let's see. All right, there's my wife. Hang on a second. Pause. Hey, I'm on the YouTube. So, hi, hon. Love you, America.
Hi.
So after spending the money on Ike, I decided, well, I guess you're my dog. And I came home and Ike had jumped the fence and got into more mischief. I was like, what the heck? So what did I do? I went, I already like you, Ike. You're captured. And I put a 6-foot fence around the backyard, and Ike could no longer get out. And then Ike would go with me. It was so cool because I was still boxing. I was still doing my thing as an attorney. And Ike would go running with me. And I've never had, Sarge would run a little bit, but I'd have to worry about him going somewhere. Ike would run miles. He'd run a little ahead of me, a little behind me, but always with me. I went, Ike, let's go. Like right to my side. He'd just run, like we jogged like 3 to 5 miles. And it was so cool because I never had that dog that would do that. It was just, it's a cool experience training for boxing with your dog, right? Boxer, get it, but up. And you know, he was, yeah, it was just a great dog. So, and he got along with Adrian, and everything was good. And then I decided someone called and said, hey, we got this big dog. He's like Brindle. I didn't even know what Brindle was. And I was like, Brindle? Like, it's like, yeah, he's a big dog. He's like a Great Dane mix. I'm like, holy crap. And they go, we just need someone to foster him for 2 weeks. And they said that he had some tick disease. And I'm trying to think of the name of it. And they said, you got to give him these pills, and he just needs someone to, you know, kind of rock him back to health. And I was like, all right, like, how'd I work? But, you know, before work, after work, you know, I can spend the time with him. So I ended up, Buddy came into the house. So we had 3 dogs. Well, I say we, it was me. Right? I was living in a house by myself, just got my job, and, you know, bought a house in the hood, in Hollywood. It's the hood. And the only problem is Ike decided he was going to attack Buddy. And Buddy's like this big 110-pound dog. And Ike's probably like 60 or 70 pounds. And Ike would just run across the yard and attack him. And then it was like these big fights. And I'm trying to break him up. But I had committed, and 2 weeks turned into a month. And then they were like, well, we might have someone in, I don't know, like Michigan or Tennessee. Who knows, somewhere. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, so I ended up adopting Buddy, and Buddy was roof, roof. My wife does a great imitation. On cue, honey. So she could imitate. That's how we would bark. And Buddy was with me. Adrian was with me, and Ike was with me. And I ended up moving to Jupiter, Florida, and that's where my home is. And had those 3 dogs, and had another dog named Elvis, who was with the ex-girlfriend. And I ended up keeping Elvis after we broke up, and when I met my now wife, I still had Elvis. So I had Adrian had just passed away. Adrian lived to about 15, and I buried her in my front yard, and it was very sad because her legs were collapsing and she couldn't hold herself up, and I'd put the towel around her and walk her outside and kind of hold up her midsection while she urinated and defecated, and it was sad. And the vet came and found a vet in Jupiter, and the vet came and euthanized her in the yard after they tried the steroids, and the steroids worked for a little bit. And anyone who knows dogs, once they get to the steroids, it's a sad thing. And I cried and bawled, and still do. I walk out into my yard and I talk to my dogs that are passed away. I know, creepy, right? But I love my dogs. And I think about the days that they passed, and I try to be cognizant of it. Sometimes I forget, and I go out there and I say a little prayer and tell them I miss them. And Adrian was the first dog to be buried at the front yard at the tree. And then I think it was June 2nd of 2014, Buddy passed. Same thing, just his body was collapsing. He couldn't stand, and I tried. I took him to the vet. I all the care I could give, all the money that you could spend, but in a humane way. I'm not going to keep a dog alive for my selfishness. Hey vet, what do you think? It's time. Okay, it stinks, but I cry and I cry and I cry. And that was one day after my wife's birthday, and the last thing I wanted to do was bury a dog on my wife's birthday. And my in-laws were there, and the next day, that was the day. And I buried Buddy, in the front near Adrian, and he was another wonderful dog. Big Galoop. I called him the Big Galoop. He would just with his woof. He'd sleep on his dog bed, and I think I buried him on top of his dog bed. Dug a hole 6 foot down, and
round and
oh yeah, it was a Candyland. My wife's just correcting me. I bought this thing off of whatever that fancy website is that they sell cool stuff, and they had a sale on dog beds, and I got a really cool dog bed for front gate. Yep, front gate. It's like $50 or something. Normally like $150, but I got on sale. It was like a big candy cane, but he loved it. He laid on it. He curled up on it. His big 100-something pound body that dwindled down to, I don't know how much he weighed at his death, but 90, 100 pounds. He'd lost the weight. Sad, right? It's sad seeing that your dogs go. It's heartbreaking for me. That's my life. And like your best friend or your best friends are passing, it's just hard to deal with. And after, did we get lucky? Who was after Buddy?
we got lucky after Buddy passed away.
Yeah, so after Buddy passed away, I took my wife, my daughter, we went over to the pound, and we were just gonna animal control in Palm Beach, and we're gonna volunteer. And our daughter saw this dog, and he was super wonderful. And I was like, okay, well, let's foster him. And we were apparently in the wrong cages where you can't, those aren't your foster, even though I learned later that they were. But they duped us and they said, oh, the only way you can have him is if you adopted him. So we adopted Lucky. He's like the only dog we've adopted in like the last 10 years. Every other dog's been a foster, a rescue, a damaged dog, a hurt dog, a sick dog, an elderly dog, a fighting dog. It's always been one of those. But again, love them all equally. And I know it's hard to say that. People go, well, who's your favorite kid? I love them all, and I cry with them all, and I get mad with them all. And but I'm always there for my dogs. So we got, you sure it was Buddy?
Yes, after buddies.
Oh, but I didn't talk about Elvis. So Elvis, we call him Elvis Hot Dog Foley. He came from Elvis. I was at the Flamingo. It was an apartment that I rented in at the beach 1 year. Met the ex-girlfriend, the whole relationship, blah, blah, blah. You guys don't want to hear that story. My wife doesn't want to hear that story.
It's a fun story, actually.
So I looked at Elvis and I was like, he looks like a little rat, like literally a little rat. But that little rat, he ended up staying with me, and my girlfriend and I were together for several years, and Elvis was there, and I just learned to love Elvis. And he wasn't a trained dog. He wasn't particularly smart, but he was like my hot dog. He was like holding a football. It was like I was back at Alabama playing football, and I would carry him around like a football, like literally like a football. I'd watch football games with him, and I'd hold him like a football. And he would just lay there. And he'd piss in the house even though he was trained. All the things that a bad dog does, but man, I loved him. He was just like, that's what I called him, my little guy. Elvis Hot Dog Foley, because he looked like a hot dog. He was a wiener and a wiener dog mixed with a like a miniature pinscher. But he looked like a hot dog. And he was just, I don't know, it's just like a lovable dog. And my wife loved cuddled with him, and she cried. And Elvis, as time went by, he had some kind of heart condition. The vet said a congenital heart failure, and we noticed something. It was like a little, like almost like a hiccup. Like, look, something. He seems okay. I'm a little concerned of his heart. And then maybe a week or two later, my wife called me at work and said, hey, Elvis is not doing well. He's not acting right. I'm on my way to the vet. And I get there, and our regular vet's not there. It's the new guy, and he's a nice guy. What the hell's his name? Can't remember his name. Dr. Ross, PGA Animal Clinic. And he's a nice guy. And he sees me. I'm a big aloof. I'm talking about, my little buddy. And I'm literally crying hysterical. And he goes, his heart's failing, and it's not good. He's in pain. And I say, okay, let's just do it. Like, obviously, I left work, and now my dog is being euthanized in front of me. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I still cry. Like, I could break tears right now. All of these dogs mean something. And if you know my personality, I'm a caregiver. I try to help. I root for the underdog because I've always been the underdog. I guess that's how I take on cases, the personal injury and the criminal defense, and take on the dogs and whatever it is. They each dog affects me, and I'm not going to kill you guys. I 5 people, and thank you for watching, and I'm sure people will watch. I'll finish the story because I got a lot more dogs, man. It's all about the animals and the love of animals and caring so much that it hurts, and it hurts when you lose them. So we're going to end on Elvis Hot Dog Foley today. I may start up talking to him about him a little bit tomorrow, but we started with Benji. We talked about Treacherous. We went to Sarge, right? We talked about Blood, and we talked about Chelsea, and each dog, Adrian, Sarge, Buddy, Elvis. they all mean something to me. They've always meant something to me, and I get attached instantly. There's just something in my personality that is drawn to animals and caring for them and doing the best. So I'm giving you my life story of dogs because it's just something random and something that I can talk passionately, articulately about, and hopefully you see another side of your attorney. I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. My wife's in the car.
Hello.
She says hello. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and share. All right, we're going to talk about dogs. See ya.